Right. Like to welcome everybody to our MAG meeting. Wonderful Zoom again. I'll be glad when we get back together because I'm still.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Have him. Sorry.
Did you mute me? Holy cow, all I did was start talking about food and you mute me.
I think she
You
did.
believe that?
That's payback, Mayor. That's payback.
I guess. I think, keep this up. I'm going to take my computer and go home. So, all right, let's go. Let's start our meeting here with item number 1, approve the March 4th, 2021 meeting minutes. Anyone who has like to give me a motion on that, I would entertain it.
I'll motion to approve those. This is Mayor Johnson.
Mayor Frost.
Okay, got Mayor, first by Mayor Johnson, a second by Mayor Frost. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Public comments, number 2. Told that there is no public comments, so we'll move right to number 3. Point of the Mountain Transit Study Update and Local Preference Alternative Approval. Patty from UTA is going to give us a presentation there. Maybe.
Hey.
Yay, there you are.
Yeah.
There she was.
Sorry. Okay. Can you see my presentation? Took me a while to get
Yes.
there. Okay. Well, thank you for having me here today. I'm here to tell you about the preferred alternative that has been selected for the Point of the Mountain Transit Study. I'm going to explain the steps that we went through to get to the alternative that we selected and why we made our selection. So by the end of my presentation, you'll understand the alternative and why we chose the alternative that we did. And I know many of you have already seen this presentation, but it'll be new to some of you. So to begin with, the purpose of our project was to create a high capacity rapid transit connection between southern Salt Lake County and northern Utah County, and to connect to existing and future economic development areas. So we started our project in August of 2019. Last December, we made our preferred alternative selection, and we have moved into and are proceeding with the environmental analysis for the project, which will be ongoing for the next couple of years. So for our original analysis, we started with 5 alternatives, and we learned that economic development was a critical driver for the project, and also the urgency is important for the project implementation. So because of that, we focused on a segment that is common to all of the original 5 alternatives. And that was because it was and will be a catalyst for economic development, and is more likely to receive funding and will be easier and quicker to implement. So for our level 2 evaluation, we moved forward bus rapid transit and rail, and they're both in this common ground segment, which starts on the north end at the Draper Front Runner Station. It travels southeast across the prison site, east up and over I-15 into the UTA right-of-way down to Lehigh Traverse Mountain, with potential extensions to the south to the Triumph Boulevard Station, and then across I-15 again to the west over to Lehigh Front Runner. So this bus rapid transit would be known as gold standard, which means that it's almost entirely exclusive guideway. So it would be running in its own right-of-way, not in mixed flow with other vehicles. And also this bus option allows us to have 2 stations at the point site. So for the entire alignment, we could have 6 or 7 stations with those two stations to the south. And the stations for this bus rapid transit gold standard also means that the stations would be very nice with amenities similar to train stations. In addition, we could have transit signal priority. So wherever the bus has a crossing, the bus would receive priority at the signal. The other mode that we looked at, as I said, was rail. We looked at two technologies, diesel multiple unit and light rail. This is the alignment is very similar to the bus rapid transit. However, we would only have the one station at the point, and that just has to do with a rail option needs a larger retaining wall to get up and over I-15, so we could only have one station at the point. And then this rail option also requires its own maintenance facility in the area. So that is an additional requirement for a rail option. So out of those two modes, we looked at the similarities. So what were the similarities between the bus and the rail? They both have very good land use and economic development benefits, and the ridership was very similar for both. The bus rapid transit for Point of the Mountain would benefit from the fact that Central Corridor would also be a bus. So that was a benefit for that ridership, and that made it similar for both modes. They would also both benefit from the expected future population and employment growth for the area. So what were the differences? Well, the bus option came in for a cost between 300 to 450 million. The rail option would be between 450 up to 850 million. Construction with the BRT would be easier and quicker than a rail option, and the BRT would be quicker to implement than rail. So looking at those considerations, we ended up with the common ground segment, as I said, starts out in the north at Draper Frontrunner, down south at Lehigh Traverse Mountain, with the two potential extensions to Triumph Boulevard and Lehigh Frontrunner. This alignment is 8 miles long. We could have up to 7 stations with those 2 additional stations. And we are possibly looking at other additional connections, possibly to the south. So where we are now, since the beginning of the year, I've been going around to all of our stakeholders, giving updates on the preferred alternative similar to this presentation. I've gone to Draper and Lehigh City. They will be adopting the LPA through the locally preferred alternative through resolutions. I have been to Wasatch Front Regional Council, and I was at the MAG TAC meeting about 10 days ago here today. Then I will take it to the UTA Advisory Council for their approval. And then ultimately the UTA Board of Trustees will adopt the preferred alternative. As I mentioned, we've started the environmental. As far as funding for the environmental study, last year the legislature appropriated $750,000 for the project. UTA currently in our capital budget, we have $500,000 this year for the project. We had submitted an STBG grant fund application requesting $3 million, and we learned yesterday that they have recommended, the TAC has recommended $2 million. And then also recently, the legislature appropriated $5 million for this study. So that concludes my presentation of our preferred alternative and why we came to the decision that we did. So do you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Patty on this?
Yeah, this is Mayor Stout. I have a question. was there an environmental impact study done on air quality between the two options?
Can you say that again? Was there environmental?
Was there an environmental impact study done on the two options as far as air quality goes?
Well, so as part of the environmental studies so we're both projects are at the stage where we're starting environmental study, but air quality is part of so for our project, well, actually for both, there'll probably be an environmental assessment. So that's a type of document, NEPA document, and air quality will be part of both of those studies.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question.
Okay.
This is Tom. I'm with the County Commission. If the BRT option, how is it integrated with the existing I-15? Do you anticipate a future lane that would support the BRT separately from the existing freeway structure? Or do you anticipate turning the HOV into a BRT lane? I know I may be the new kid in class and this has already been sorted out, but I just want to get that figured out.
Oh, that's fine. That's why I'm here. So it won't travel in I-15. So this,
Okay.
this corridor that's on the east side,
Yes.
that's actually an old railroad corridor that
Right.
UTA owns. And so it will travel in that corridor. It won't actually be on I-15.
Okay, good, because I missed that part that they would be fully separate from the freeway. I see
Yeah.
at the bend where it follows that frontage road along the gravel pit. I see that more clearly now.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the funding aspect of it, is there I'm thinking of Washington, DC, Baltimore, Chicago, California. They have fares to supplement because it's heavily subsidized by the state and counties there. Are we anticipating moving that same type of direction, having some amount of fare to help offset the cost of the BRT and or rail?
Do you mean the fare to ride the
Yeah,
system?
yeah, I know
Well,
the UX is free right now, but just looking
Right.
down the road.
Well, for most of our system, we do charge a fare. So it just depends on whether the county or the MPO wants to make this free fare. But typically we charge a fare for our system.
Okay, okay. That was good. And lastly, I know the shakes weren't that significant, but was there any challenges to the rail from the Point of the Mountain earthquake we had earlier last year and the year before?
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily my area, but
I'll hold off. I'm just curious if you knew anything.
okay. I mean, we have engineers that have to monitor that, and especially after an earthquake, they have to go out and check especially the bridges. Yeah.
Okay, that'll do it for my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Patty?
Go ahead, Mayor Frost.
I think commenting, I think that this is something that we're talking about bringing it through American Fork, Pleasant Grove, and then connecting into UVU. I'm not sure where it goes south of that, but I think this gets it over a real critical point. It just sets the stage for it to come through the rest of the valley. So I would just say I'm real supportive. So because we're right next to this, and it just brings it closer to where the people are. So.
Well, and I would just clarify that this is for Point of the Mountain, which ends in Lehigh, but Central Corridor,
Right.
This would at some point connect with Central Corridor, but that's actually a separate project at this point. But that would go from Lehigh down to Provo. Yeah.
Hey, there is life after Provo. Just remember that.
Thanks for bringing that up. There is. I don't know about that. I think Provo South has more life in it. There's a lot.
And Spanish Fork.
Yep. Oh, particularly. And especially down in Goshen.
Mayor Leifson, we did a staff report on this that pointed out that the technical advisory committee that Patty presented to about a week ago recommended the locally preferred alternative be approved, with the consultant team and UTA considering the southern terminus of the project near 2100 North, which is very close to what the dash line shows right now, but may take a little bit more analysis to look at that area, because there's a planned TOD, or a transit-oriented development, that Lehigh has right there at 2100 North. So when TAC approved their recommendation, they included that as part of the recommendation. We also have a draft suggested motion in that staff report. If you wanted me to read that, I could read that, or you guys can refer to that in your packet as well.
Good, thank you.
I would, this is Rod Mann, I would support this project and support us voting on making a motion to indicate our support for it.
All right, is this something we need this? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I am sort of looking for a vote of support. That
Okay.
would be great.
Oh, apparently we've got a motion by Mayor Mann. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. This is Mayor Johnson.
A second by Mayor Johnson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All
Sean,
right.
does that motion cover what you hope it would, as far as just the terminology and the detail?
I think it captures the intent. It would be nice to just mention the 2100.
Yeah, I think that's the, that was kind of, after reading that article, is my impression too, because if there is
looks like we had someone that wasn't muted, but the point that TAC was making is, if UTA can do the analysis to see if it's warranted to bring that project down to 2100 North, is what TAC was recommending. That's what MAG staff recommends as well. And so if you want to modify your motion, or if Patty
I would consider that a friendly amendment. So I'd modify it as stipulated by Sean. I'm good with that.
All right.
My second stands.
Okay, perfect.
That was Mayor Mann's intent when he made the first motion. So just to clarify.
I'm sure it was.
It was,
that's what I
definitely.
thought. All right, so with those two motions, all in favor with that nice friendly amendment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. All right, let's go down to number 4. TIP amendment, front runner commuter rail strategy enhancements. Bob?
Yeah.
Take it
Hopefully
away.
you can hear me. Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me and see my screen. This is a TIP amendment. So Frontrunner, UTA has been planning for years to do some strategic investments to Frontrunner, which would improve reliability, enhance the speed, increase frequency, increase capacity. And to do that, through studies that they've done, they've identified 3 things that would need to happen: double tracking in strategic locations, some station improvements, and then adding additional vehicles. So in this last legislative session, about $100 million of one-time funding was identified to be dedicated to this through the TTIF program. Most of you are probably familiar with TIF. If you're not familiar with TTIF, it's basically the transit portion of the TIF account. In addition, the legislature set aside or identified a $200 million of a transportation bond, $200 million of the upcoming transportation bond that was approved. So you can see here kind of a breakdown that there would be $100 million of TTIF for 2021, and then $200 million in what we call CD, that's concept of design. Basically, that's just a placeholder until the Transportation Commission and the leadership there can figure out, okay, what does the bond look like, and get all the things in line for that bond. But 200 million of that will go to this specific project. What are the benefits of these strategic enhancements? Well, it'll increase frequency to up to 15-minute frequencies at key stations. It could reduce travel time on express trains, and it could even increase seating capacity on peak hour trains to up to 14 per hour. This project is here before you because we're trying to get this action done and amended into the TIP to enable UTA to go after additional federal funding for this project. Most of you are aware there's a lot of talk about infrastructure funds being made available, and this being in the TIP now makes it possible for them to, and makes their argument more strong to go after those federal funds that would be, again, going directly to this project. They're looking at about, from last I understand, about an additional $50 million. So again, this is just, again, looking at strategic enhancements along Front Runner to do those three things, to increase the frequency and reliability of Front Runner. And it is a motion, it is an action item. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Maybe, I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean to jump on you. I just wanted to point out, this is 300 million total that includes the entire system. So all the way up into WFRC. So not all 300 million will be spent in the MPO in Utah County, but it will be spread across the entire system. And WFRC is showing the same amount in their TIP modification as well. I just needed to clarify that.
What does CD mean on your table?
Concept design. It's basically a way to put in a project that is maybe outside the funding, the current funding parameters that we understand. And basically it's a placeholder until those specific details about the year and the type of fund are identified. The legislature has already said, we're going to bring that 200 million to you. The details have not been figured out yet. Once those details are figured out, then that'll be switched to the correct year and the correct funding type. We just don't know those yet. So CD is something that UDOT and other MPOs use all the time.
Thanks.
So
yeah,
Rod, if I may chime in just a tiny bit here.
Please.
In working with UDOT, you know, we're trying to see what the best timing is. The bonding capacity is there. It's been appropriated or set aside by the legislature. And as we go forward, if the economy here in Utah continues to thrive, you know, it may allow funding to come without going to the depths or to the, not the extreme, but to the process of bonding. And so it just keeps that placeholder, like was mentioned there, giving it that assurance that the money is there if needed, but there may be other means by which that funding comes about. So is that, Sean, does that make sense to you? I mean, that I know Carlos was, you know, he's fully supportive of the transit part of this, and the legislature is, the governor is. And I think going forward, not just only in this year, but even the next few years, there's a real commitment to make sure that this backbone is built and efficient, and the headways are shorter, and the reliability is ensured by the double tracking. So this just allows us to go to the federal government and qualify for appropriations that can come there that would enhance the investment that the state has made. Anyway, hopefully
Perfect.
that's helpful.
Yeah, we often refer to this project as the I-15 of transit along the Wasatch Front. So if you had a transit corridor that was acted like I-15 does, this is it, Front Runner. And so if we can do as much to maximize this project's value to people that live and work along the Wasatch Front, that's what we need to do. So we're working on Front Runner South as well as this double tracking piece.
Right. Any other questions for Bob? All right, if not, then I would entertain a motion.
This is Mayor Stout. I'll make that motion to move forward with the Front Runner Commuter Rail Strategic Enhancements project to be added to the TIP as presented.
Got a motion? Need a second?
I'll second that. All right, Mayor
I
Mann.
assume that's Mayor Mann.
Good assumption. Mr. Kreskin?
It's a Stout
All
man.
right. Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Move forward. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to number 5, UVX free fare consideration to file the fourth quarter sales tax UTA portion. Andrew.
Yes, sorry, just trying to get unmuted there. Melanie, could you bring up the PowerPoint? Perfect, thank you. So just like we talked about before, some discussion on the fourth quarter cent and UVX and the zero fare on UVX. We're expecting to continue this discussion, but just wanted to give you a little more information just to think about. And then we'll continue to have more discussions at upcoming meetings. Next slide, please, Melanie. And we'll send this out so that if you're looking at it in a smaller version, you can have a bigger view of it. But essentially, this is just taken from the Utah County adopted budget and highlights the different quarter cent sales taxes that are for transportation. You have in kind of that, I guess, kind of a beige color, if my colors are correct. It says section 2208 sales tax. That's actually 2213, which is the section of the state code that deals with the first quarter cent. And it shows what the first quarter cent sales tax generates in 2021. If you look at the far right column under that row that's 2208, there's 27,542,000 that goes directly to UTA as the first quarter cent sales tax. And then if you look at kind of that reddish pinkish color that says section 2216 sales tax UTA portion, this is the second quarter sales tax. There's a portion of it that comes to the county directly, and that's a portion of it that's for roads. The other portion goes to UTA for Front Runner and for BRT. That's actually not a quarter. You can see that it generates $33 million. It's actually a 0.3, but it's not on food, and that was changed from a quarter cent to 0.3 when they took the sales tax off of food. So there's about 30 million that goes to UTA, another 2.6 million that goes to the county and is processed through Mountain Land. Most of that is going to pay off bonds of previous projects. And then if you go to the green 2218, that's a third quarter cent sales tax. There's about 27.5 million that goes there. And then if we look at this kind of a purplish color that says 2219, just above that, there's a clear one that shows the county portion, which is 5.5 million that goes directly to the county. And then the other portion that says city UTA portion is actually a county, city, and UTA portion of 22 million. If we can go to the next slide, Melanie. Could we advance to the next slide? Perfect, thank you. And so this is our breakdown of what is expected out of the fourth quarter. As you may or may not be familiar, 40% of the fourth quarter goes to the cities and towns, plus Utah County receives a portion of that 40%, which is a total of just over $11 million. And you can see what we expect that split to be based off of the current sales tax split, which is 50% point of sale and 50% population. And then another 40%, you can see bolded down at the bottom, you've got UTA and bold there with 11 million. So they also get 40%. And then the county, you can see them kind of in the middle there. They get 20% direct allocation. So they get 5.5 million plus 177,000. So they get a total of $5.6 million out of that fourth quarter that goes to the county. If we could go to the next slide, please.
Andrew, quick question
Yes.
for you.
Yep.
When you say 2021, is that calendar year? Is that what we're talking about as a calendar year?
Yes, because it comes from the budget that was just adopted by the county, and these are what they have projected. The county's fiscal year is a calendar year.
Right.
So yes, what they expect that to be for 2021. So then this next slide is, if you remember, or even if you don't, when the fourth quarter cent, prior to the fourth quarter cent being enacted, there was a requirement of Utah County that there be an interlocal agreement that determined how the fourth quarter cent, how UTA's portion of the fourth quarter cent would be spent. Previously for UVX, the third quarter cent had loaned money to the first quarter cent, and then the first quarter cent was paying back the third quarter cent for the BRT bond and operations and maintenance. With the adoption or the enactment of the fourth quarter cent, there was this interlocal agreement between Utah County and UTA as to how UTA's portion of that will be spent. So we've got about $11 million. There's current and future bond payments. That's about $3.3 million. And then we have this, what we call as a waterfall. So it starts off in the first barrel, if you will, this blue barrel. And once that is filled, then it bumps over into the next barrel and then continuing on through to the last barrel. And so after UTA spends that $11 million on current and future bond payments, which is about $3.3 million per year, then by agreement, they spend the remaining money on current and future operations and maintenance. After that is full of the current and future operations and maintenance of the UVX project, then they go to pay back the past bond with principal and interest, and continuing on down this waterfall, pay back past O&M and design costs, all borrowed out of the third quarter cent, then paying back the interest and past O&M design costs. And then the second to the last barrel is actually to put money aside in the reserve account to pay off the bond early. So notice that's not until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a sixth barrel. So these other barrels have to be fully obligated prior to that sixth barrel coming in, which is a reserve account to pay off the bond early. And then the last one on there by agreement, again, between UTA and Utah County, is a new service as per a service level agreement between UTA, COG, and Utah County. So I just wanted to update you on what we're expecting will be a direct allocation to the cities. You will receive that your fourth quarter, cities, towns, and the county will be a direct allocation from the tax commission, something similar to what you receive in BNC road funds. UTA gets a direct allocation as well, but UTA's direct allocation is obligated through this interlocal agreement on how they can spend that 11 million out of the fourth quarter. So I'll answer any questions. This is not an action item. It's just for information only. but I just wanted to, again, kind of break this off into bits and pieces as we go through the next several meetings of the Regional Planning Committee to talk about the fourth quarter, how it can be spent, and then how that relates to UVX and the funding of UVX. But I could go on for hours and hours. I'm here every Thursday. Anybody wants me to go on for hours and hours, I can do it.
But you can do that when you put yourself on mute. It's fine.
Yep.
So Andrew, it might be helpful for the mayors to maybe understand kind of how you're articulating this and what your hopeful intent is as far as bringing them up to speed with the way you interpret the agreement, just so they understand where ultimately you're hopeful that this might go.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and we've had these discussions. So we had the third quarter cent that was paying bond and O&M costs. Probably not the entire O&M costs associated with that, but there was an agreement with the third quarter cent that there would be about 3.3 million in bond payments, and then there was about 2.5 million that was going to operations and maintenance, but there's still a deficit there. Plus, we have past bond payments, et cetera, that were being charged interest. Then, with the fourth quarter cent, that third quarter cent agreement was superseded by this fourth quarter cent agreement. And we also had some CMAQ funding, about $600,000 per year over the last 3 years to subsidize the operation and maintenance of the BRT system in order to have it be a zero fare, which we could do for 3 years by federal law. Again, with this fourth quarter cent coming into play, that adds additional funding that can be used for operation and maintenance. As I read, and it seems pretty clear to me, that we have these different 7 different buckets of this waterfall as to how we can spend that $11 million or how UTA can spend it. The first thing is to make that current bond payment that was being made by the third quarter cent, which they're doing. And then the next obligation, and there's not a dollar amount associated with that, but it is that current and future operations and maintenance, current meaning the current year. And then as this quarter cent generates money into the future, then those future dollars will be spent on future yearly operation and maintenance. And so we look at that, and Commissioner Sakiewicz had a question about fares and on BRT and future BRTs. And so as I read this, there isn't anything that says that fares come into play on this agreement, but it says that UTA needs to spend the money on operations maintenance. So then the question comes about, if you are covering 100% of the operations and maintenance out of the fourth quarter cent on UVX, do you need to charge a fare? And if you do charge a fare, where does that go? So would that fare on UVX go to subsidize some other route within the system? And so we'll get into more discussion on this, but yeah, the intent is, as we've had discussions on UVX and do we charge a fare on UVX, and as the 3-year statutory requirement on the CMAQ funding that went into subsidized operation and maintenance is now expiring in August, September-ish of this year, in the fall of this year, where does that money come from? We looked at possibly having the CMAQ funding changed at the federal level to allow continuation of that subsidy past that 3-year period. That's not likely. And so as we were looking at reviewing this, we were looking at that original agreement, and it's clear that UTA has certain things that they can do and saving up money to pay off the bond early is number 6 in that.
Yeah,
agreement.
maybe I could add, Andrew, to answer Trustee Acerson's question a little more direct. You know, we know that this 600,000 per year subsidy to UTA for UVX expires this August. And if we don't find a replacement for that 600,000 per year, UTA is going to start charging a fare to ride UVX. We know that by keeping it fast, free, and frequent, Mayor Kafusi and Mayor Brunst has coined that term. If we can keep it fast, free, and frequent, we'll keep ridership high and we'll keep congestion off of University Avenue and University Parkway. One way to do that is by taking this existing revenue source of the fourth quarter that comes to UT already and direct that to pay for or to subsidize the no fare, to continue the no fare. That's what I think we're proposing.
Yeah, and may I additionally point out that with the third quarter cent agreement on BRT, there was a $2.5 million annual allocation above and beyond the 600,000 of CMAQ funding that went towards O&M.
Yep.
And to follow that up, Sean, you know, right now UTA is going through the process to try to get a better figure on what the O&M actually is, which is critical because it's not just for UVX, it's for all the BRTs going forward. So we've got a better handle on what that actual is, because initially that 2.5 came up and it really wasn't vetted in the sense that it was exact. It was a placeholder kind of a thing. So I think it's important that each of you as mayors representing your cities, that one, you understand kind of what Andrew's sharing here, and then also weigh in on what you think is in the best interest of UVX as it pertains to your city and potential congestion and all that, because I think that's a valuable part of the discussion that will be helpful for MAG and for UTA and everyone else to weigh in and just make sure we make the right decisions. So
thank you.
Could I also just say that but for this agreement on the fourth quarter cent to pay back the third quarter cent and to pay for UVX, there would be no fourth quarter cent. So there would not be the money that's a direct allocation, as well as there would be $6 million less in the third quarter cent.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Is it okay if we back up a couple slides where they show the allocations to the city, each city? Okay, so, you know, I'm used to drinking from a fire hose. Now I'm looking at thinking I can drink from buckets. So I will admittedly say that I need to have a better understanding, and I'd rather just offline you on that one, Andrew, as far as that. We've been around and I get the general concept, but I want to know more and have detailed so it's clear in my mind. Because we talk about this amount right here as it's allocated per city. Can you just clarify for me, if not everybody else, this amount of money, how it comes to the cities, and when it comes to the cities? We're just going through our budgetary processes right now, and I just want to make sure that we include whatever it is that we need to, and so I'm clear on these amounts.
Yeah, so this is a direct allocation from the tax commission to the city, and it would be likely to come under the same way that your C road fund allocation comes. It's collected, I'm sure it's a monthly distribution. So in addition to your C road funds, you get this funding. It would have started, probably about 6 months or so ago. But that $873,000 will be split up by 12, and then you receive that on a a monthly basis. And so for your next budget year, you should expect, in addition to your regular Class C road funds, you would expect to receive this amount of funding. It can be used in the same way that Class C road funds can be used, except you can't build like a storage structure for your ice, or excuse me, your ice melt, your salt, and you also can't buy equipment with it. But anything you can use Class C road funds on, and I can send that out to everybody if that would be helpful. But in the same way that you use Class C road funds, you can use this.
Yeah, Mayor Frost, this is new money coming to the city from the fourth quarter, and we're not talking about using this money for UVX.
Okay.
We're just using this as an example to say this is the city's portion. And then Andrew pointed out that UTA has their own portion of the fourth quarter, and we're referring to that UTA portion that could be used for no fare UVX.
And you've probably seen some of this money already coming directly to the city for at least the last 6 months or so.
Well, that email, it would be helpful for me to see it. A lot of this goes through staff level things, and then we see the budget. So again, I
Yes.
guess I need to learn more and have.
And I can send you a spreadsheet that shows your month by month allocations as well.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Good enough. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, editorials? All right, let's move on to number 6, update reports. Update from the Federal Highway Administration. Is Kelly on? Or someone representing that? All right. Not, we'll go to the UDOT. Jim, you on?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just we continue to go through the statewide transportation improvement program, otherwise known as STIP. And in our last meeting in March, we were reviewing kind of just all the things on the list. And then for our April meeting, now the UDOT, Carlson and his group will put together some proposals, and then we'll review that. And then actually in May, the commission will finalize and approve the FY22 STIP update. And so that's just to let you know, that's still, you can go online to our website and click and see how that's progressing in the next couple of months. You can continue to give the public input, the input from local elected officials. We want to let you know that's still going through the process. And the final, we would, in our May meetings, when we'd actually act on that and kind of prioritize and finalize that list for FY22. So I just wanted to give you an update on that's going forward. I don't know if Sean, you want any more about the projects down here? I just know we've got projects on there like all around the state, but I want to let them know where we're at in the process, and we continue to welcome input as a commission as we go through this process of kind of honing it down. And now we're to the next step. We've seen them all. Now UDOT will come back to us in April, and then in May we actually kind of vote on the priorities. So that's still, we're accepting input all the way through May before we vote on that.
So exciting. Commissioner Evans, $5 billion is what Carlos reviewed for us today.
Yep.
Rebuilding I-15 from Salt Lake to Farmington, building Mountain View corridor from 2100 North up into Porter Rockwell, up into Draper. Major projects. Such a great time for Utah right now with the highway funding.
Certainly is.
Good enough. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to UTA. Jeff?
I was going to say, you may want to go to the website that UDOT has, because there's a lot of detail in there. It's very informative. It's very easy to, Carlos was, I don't want to say he was bragging, but he took a lot of pleasure in showing it today in the JPAC meeting. And it was good. It was easy to follow and see where the allocations are and what the anticipated outcomes are going to be. As far as UTA,
hey Jeff, maybe
yeah,
let them know where that is on the UDOT homepage. Just go down towards the bottom and click on Transportation Commission, and that's where you can get into what Jeff was just talking about. So it's very easy off the homepage to get to that. So thanks, Jeff. I want to make sure they knew where to click on that.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. As far as UTA, I mean, the state has made a great appropriation for transit in conjunction with UDOT, and there's a great relationship between the two organizations and also the planning organizations with MPO the MPOs, Wasatch Regional Front and MAG. And, it's a good time. It's a great time to be working together with the anticipated growth that's coming. And, we're positioning UTA through the action that was taken tonight to qualify for potential federal funding that is critical to initiate and complete these projects. So just an update. I mean, Sharp Tinnick, that's a major advancement that I think we're all excited about. There is, I wish I remembered the name, Jim, and maybe you can tell me who, the gentleman that's in charge or the chair of the Transportation Commission. But
Nagy.
Yeah, there you go. He's wanting to see Front Runner all the way down to St. George. So I think that's a little anyway. That's probably not in my lifetime, but that's a great vision. But please continue to be a part of the process. We've got Mark Johnson, who serves on the advisory council from Lehigh. He's engaged. Julie Fulmer is, I'm sure, more than excited about the Vineyard Station that is coming and been appropriated the funds. So there are a lot of good things happening. The Central Corridor is another project. And I know Carolyn Gannott, who met with us before here, she's excited about just the synergy between the Point of the Mountain and the Central Corridor. And in that environmental impact study they're going to do, they're trying to do more than what typically would be done. So it blends into the Central Corridor as well. So we can get some of the preliminary potentially done in conjunction with the Point of the Mountain. So there's a very positive move forward. And I think it's because everyone knows the growth is coming. And, if anything, the benefit of COVID, I think it's given us an opportunity to maybe take a deep breath and bought us some time a little bit because Carlos said that the roads are getting filled up. They're probably at 100% capacity, at least at certain times during the day. And so UDOT realizes, and UTA especially realizes, that transit's going to be a major part of trying to make sure people can get up and down the Wasatch Front and east and west as well. So that's just kind of a summary. I don't know if you have any questions. We appreciate your commitment to transit. I know many of the cities have planned through their planning organizations. They've appropriated potentially for density along that corridor. And I think that's going to be beneficial not only to your city, but also moving people up and down the Wasatch Front. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Okay, other business. We've got another item here, Sean and Mayor Wright. I'll let either one of you start and talk about what you'd like to talk about on that.
Thank you, Mayor Leifson. Mayor Wright contacted me last night and again this morning about some of the coronavirus response and relief funding that Kelly Lund mentioned in February at this meeting. We received $3.7 million of additional funds that we were not expecting, and Mayor Wright's wondering if there's a way for us to try to put some money onto Front Runner South. As Trustee Acherson just reviewed, we have a fully funded environmental document or environmental project on Point of the Mountain in the north part of Utah County. We have partial funding for an environmental document on Central Corridor. We don't have any money yet on Front Runner South. And so what Mayor Wright's challenging staff to do is to try to figure out a way to try to make some of that money work for a Front Runner South environmental document. So I just wanted to bring that up to the group tonight, make you aware of it. And staff will go back and work on that for the next couple weeks, and we'll try to bring you guys back a solution if that's something you guys want to pursue. The main thing that Mayor Wright points out, and we agree with, is that there's a lot of talk about investment and infrastructure bills right now. And if we can have a couple of these projects ready to go on the shelf, we might be able to pull those off the shelf and get those things funded. And, we hope that there might be opportunity through earmarks or through an infrastructure plan that the federal government's thinking about. even additional bonding capacity through the state of Utah in the future. There's still some capacity there at the state level. So whatever we can do to get those 3 transit projects ready to go is what MAG staff would like to see. And we'll come back to the group to the technical advisory committee and then back to you guys next month with an idea if that's desirable to the group.
Just offhand, do you know the estimated cost of those? Yeah.
We were thinking $2 million for the environmental on Front Runner South would be a good starting point. The Central Corridor is partially funded at $3 million. Point of the Mountain, I believe we had $9 million on that for the environmental document. Does that sound right, Trustee? So I believe that's the broad numbers.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'd really like to see this happen. We can be ready if the opportunity presents itself. I was able to talk to all of the South County mayors, with the exception of Mayor Kafusi. I had a phone call into her, but I've talked to all of them from Springville to Genola, and every one of them were very much in favor of doing this type of project.
Yeah, I think it'd be really good. Like Sean said, if we've got something on the shelf ready to go, we can just pull it off and be ready. Let's be a little proactive and be ahead of the curve on this, like we have on all the rest.
You stopped at Genola? Come on. There's one more.
Is there, where's Genola?
Where's Genola?
How do you spell it?
Sorry, Steve. I didn't mean to miss you.
That's great.
I know.
All right.
I'm supportive
Wonderful.
of this.
Mayor Fulmer has put in the chat that she would like to know what the cost is.
Oh, thank you. I thought we answered Mayor Fulmer's question on the environmental document.
You did. I asked and then I said it out loud. Thank you.
Okay, good deal. All right, our next meeting will be May 6, 2021. Location to be determined. Let's hope that we might be able to get together, see where we stand back then. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mayor Wright, second by
Mayor Larson.
Mayor Larson. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. And